IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories podcast. I am Girish and I'm just filling in for my friends and fellow podcasters Saif and Feza. I'm also a big fan of the Musafir Stories, so I'm really happy to be here. Well, a quick intro. I host the Mission Shunya podcast. Mission Shunya is all about the transition to a zero carbon economy. The podcast features conversations related to clean tech and sustainability. It covers stories of people whose businesses and actions are having a positive impact on the planet. A new podcast episode is released every 2 weeks. Renewable energy, electric vehicles, sustainable development, climate change, circular economy are just a few topics that will be covered. Are you interested to hear more? Well, then just search for Mission Shunya, that's Mission SHUNYA, on any platform that you're listening to the Musafir Stories on. Or you can visit the website missionSHUNYA.com. Now on to this week's episode. On today's episode of the Musafir Stories, our guest Priyanka chats with Saif and Feza and talks about going offbeat in the Valley of Gods. Let's hop on to the episode and find out more.
With that introduction, we would love to welcome Priyanka from the blog On My Canvas. Hi Priyanka.
Hey Priyanka, welcome to the Musafir Stories.
Hi Seth, hi Faiza. How are you guys? Thank you so much.
We're good too, and thank you for agreeing to do this episode. Before we get into further discussions about the place, about the itinerary, why don't you go on and give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself?
I started blogging in about 2017, and as you know, my blog goes by the name On My Canvas. It's a collection of my travel stories and my personal growth ideas. And before starting my blogging journey, I think a lot of people take a career change, and I was working in an investment bank. Before that, I was in a software company. I'm a software engineer by education. And then because I was bored by my jobs, I felt that I need to do something more that I'm passionate about. So I started writing. And with writing, somehow I started traveling, and then both of them got together, and I have this blog now. And I do it full time. I'm a full time blogger and a writer as well. Like I do a lot of freelance writing and other genres of writing.
Oh, nice.
It's
Wonderful.
brilliant, and I think quite the change you've decided to make, and kudos to you for being brave enough to actually make that change. People like me sit and think over it forever, and nothing changes.
No, I think it depends differently on everyone. I think some people plan better and then they bring these changes upon, and some people like me, they can't plan, so they think, okay, let's start and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, I just hope it does work for you in the best way possible.
Absolutely. As long as it works out well for you, and
Yes.
as long as you're happy with the decision, I think either way you only can plan to a certain extent, right? As you said, hopefully this works out well for you, and we're glad that it's working out well for you so far.
Yes.
Thank you.
Like with that change and with that genre in mind, where would you like to take us and our listeners to today?
I can take you to Manali. I went to Manali. I went on a really long Himachal trip this year. Like I was there for about 4 months. I started my journey with Vipassana, and then I kept traveling, and then towards my last stop in Himachal was Manali. And I always thought of Manali that it's a very touristy place, and it must be crowded, and it wouldn't be my kind of place. But then I went there and I stayed I stayed there 2 times, like once for 1 day and then another for 5-6 days, and I really liked it. So I definitely had to write about it and talk about it, because there is so much in Manali just that's not like out there. People know about very popular things, but there's still so much to see. So let's go to Manali.
So wonderful.
Absolutely.
So we are covering more of the offbeat Manali, to say it right, rather than the
Yes.
more touristy aspect of Manali.
Right, let's say offbeat
Exactly.
Wonderful,
Manali.
because or else Manali is just like that typical honeymoon destination where everybody is like heading over to Manali, and that the pictures where like the
It's our
snow made pictures.
more like our parents' generation
Yeah.
honeymoon destination. I think. I mean, even now, I'm sure,
Yeah, even
but
now I see so
it's
many.
been popular like that, right? As a very popular
Yeah.
touristy and a very popular honeymoon destination more than
It's,
anything.
I think now also if you go there, you will see it as a honeymoon destinations. Like a lot of people go to Manali and Shimla, and in Manali you can see people going for that. Like they go until Rohtang Pass, and in the summer season you will see like thousands of people. Maybe like at one time the road gets jammed.
Sure.
It come on the news, and they go just to play with the snow. So Manali, yeah, it has a very typical image. It's like, as I've said in my blog title, it's like India's most wanted hill station. It is
Exactly.
like children dream of going to Manali. I used to. I never went at that time, but it's like a very beautiful Himachal. You can call it a hamlet in some sense because it goes very quiet in some places, and you can also call it a city because it has all the city things that one might think of, at least as much as possible in Himachal Pradesh.
Okay.
Absolutely. And yeah, we've been talking a lot about Manali and how it is, but for maybe some of who still don't know a lot about Manali, why don't we quickly draw out a little bit of orientation as well, like where it is situated and how you get there, and how did you get there in your case?
Once I went there when I was coming back from Spiti, but the other time I went there, I was in Parvati Valley. I was doing a 2-3 weeks trip in Parvati, and from there I went to Manali. It was quite a journey. But if for people who want to go for, let's say, from Delhi or from Dharamshala, you can always go to Bhuntar airport. Bhuntar is about 50-60 kilometers away from Manali. You can also go to Kullu, and from Kullu, Manali is just a bus away. It would take, I think, it's like 40 kilometers.
Right.
Shimla and Manali are also not that far. They're about 250 kilometers.
Yep.
Some people, I think, also plan this trip that they'll visit both the hill stations together. And there is no train station in Manali. The nearest train station is in Joginder, Nagar, which is about 150 kilometers. And then from there, you can take a taxi. From Dharamshala also you can take a bus until Bhuntar, and then from Bhuntar, as I said, if you're lucky you'll get a direct bus. If not, you go to Kullu, you get down, you wait for a bus, and then from Kullu you go to Manali.
Okay, perfect.
Priyanka knows her,
in and out.
yeah, directions and the transport like the back of her hand. So that's wonderful. But yeah, it's the bottom line is that it's well connected by road.
Yes.
And if you're flying in there, you can do it, but you'll have to, like the last mile, the last 40-50 kilometers will still have to be by road. And obviously the train station is a little far off. The reason being that it's situated in the hill in the love of the Himalayas, so that way train connectivity is a little harder to get by. But yeah, you did touch upon Kullu and Manali always like
Comes together,
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always
It's,
pronounced together,
you
right?
can,
It's just like
yeah, you can say like it's Kullu Valley. Like there are valleys in Himachal Pradesh. And earlier I didn't understand, but how it works is, of course, like there's a river and it creates a valley around it, and there are all the villages like Parvati Valley. So there's the Parvati River now, and there's the Kullu Valley, and there's the Bees, which is basically in Hindi it's known. It was Vyas, and the name transformed to become Bees River, and that's where Manali lies.
Absolutely. And yeah, just a little bit of history also. It has a lot of mythological or historical connection as well, right? It's often referred to as the Valley of Gods, more so for Kullu, but together Manali and Kullu have like a very rich historical and mythological connection also that way. And it's believed that the name Manali itself, it's derived from the sage Manu, right, who wrote Manusmriti, book of Hindu laws. So that way also it's really, really of high importance to a lot of people for religious purposes as well. It has a great religious significance. So without much ado, why don't you jump into the itinerary and speak a little bit more about your time in Manali and around, Priyanka?
Sure. So I had about 6 days in Manali. Instead of staying in New Manali, because I had been there at least, I think in a few years ago, in 2014-15, I went another Himachal trip. It was a shorter trip, and I went to Manali. I stayed in New Manali for a day, and I left it, and I didn't like it. So this time, I had a context that that area I don't like, so I need to find something else to stay. Now, a friend of mine who had traveled with me from Parvati to Manali, she was there in Manali with me for half a day, and she told me that you should go to Old Manali and stay there. So I took a rickshaw and I went to Old Manali. Now, Old Manali and New Manali are just, of course, it's the same city, just some parts start being called old because they were maybe there for, they were settled before, and now the Old Manali and New Manali part is connected by a bridge. Earlier it was all like sort of one place and there was no distinction. I think when more tourists started coming in, they started calling it like that, Old Manali and New Manali.
Okay.
Now if you go from New Manali to Old Manali, you will see that the scenery completely changes. In New Manali, you have more hotels, you have restaurants, you have a big square, you have a market, and it's just, you have small temples, you have a lot of tour agents, and the place seems pretty crowded and a bit overwhelming.
More commercialized, I think.
More commercialized. A lot of Indian family tourists. And from there, when I went to Old Manali, it was a very nice, refreshing change because Old Manali is still the Manali I think that people would have started traveling to, like Indian families, Himachali families living in their wooden cottages, and they have their animals there in the house on the ground floor, and they have an apple farm outside, and they have also some vegetables growing, and they're like these wooden cottages, with hut-shaped roofs.
Yeah, roofs and all.
Yeah, they look like the place looks like it's from a past era that I think you can just spend some time walking around there, understanding that place, finding a place for yourself to stay. And that's what I did. There are a lot of tiny streets in Old Manali. You keep walking and then you take another street and then you go somewhere else, and suddenly you would find yourself, in a very sweet home. A lot of people now run like guest houses, so you can find a place to stay very easily.
Okay. So Priyanka, that brings another question in my mind, which is, what do you suggest is the best time to visit Manali?
I think both kind of tourists go to Manali. Like some who wants to enjoy Manali in the summers, because Manali summer is not summer. It's just it's never that hot. During the day, yes, if there was sun and you would feel the heat if you're like hiking or doing something else, but otherwise it would get like a bit chilly in the evening, and it was also raining at that time. And people also go to Manali in December, January for the snowfall. I was there in July, to give the right context, like around mid-July. So I took a nice stay in Old Manali. Now at that time, also if people want to really enjoy offbeat Manali, then they have to find a quiet homestay to stay in. That's one of the first steps that I did. This is about where to stay in Old Manali. Now in terms of going about, Old Manali has access to a lot of close by villages. In terms of villages, I mean like Nagar, Vashisht, Bari, and there are so many that if you look at the map, you can see them, but you wouldn't even remember the names, and there is no marked direction. Like one of the big parts of my Manali itinerary was always that I would start walking towards somewhere, and then you find a lane, and then you find a mud path, and then you keep walking, and then suddenly you are in a new village. That happened with me. Like once I was just hiking around and I found this staircase carved out of a stone, and I took it, and then I took a right, and then I see this mud path that is definitely going somewhere, but I don't understand where it's going. So I keep walking, then I meet a villager, and he told me that he was going to his apple and pear orchard. So we walk along, and it starts raining, and it gets very slippery. He's just, walking as if just walking on a plain road, going quickly. And it starts raining, then we sit in his orchard, we have tea there, and then he tells me there's another village further up next after the orchard. So I go there, and it's so colorful. That's my blog has all the pictures, but it's very colorful
And it's really hard at this point to picture this whole scene you're drawing out for us, right? Like you sitting in an orchard with one of the villagers in the rain and not many people around and
And
muddy
tea.
paths and
yes.
sipping on tea. Compare that to the mall road of New Manali, I guess.
Yeah.
Crowded and you perhaps stepping on each other's toes and honking, a lot of honking as well these days. So very, very different. And I think that was one of the reasons that kind of aroused that curiosity in us to pursue this offbeat Manali, right, as a topic, as an episode on the podcast as well. So it's very different, and it's great that you actually picked up all these nearby villages in the vicinity and tried doing like literally this is I mean it's not even hikes, it's little trails around, right, from Old Manali. Now Priyanka, you've been wandering around a little bit, exploring these little villages, just starting off with no set itinerary or
Right.
say set list of places to cover, right? So with that in mind, where did you head off from this first pit stop or this first village that you stopped at?
This first village was basically on a bit of a rainy day. So when I arrived there, I had already had spent some time in the orchard talking with the farmer and his help. From there, I went to the village, which is Bari, but I'm still confused by the name because I think the farmer told me something and then I couldn't find it online, but it could be Bari. And then I walked around there. From there, I wanted to go further because you can keep walking. Of course, like you have villages after villages, but I came down to the road and I walked back towards Manali because it had started raining. And when it's raining, and especially if I'm alone or if I'm on a muddy path, then I prefer to come back because the paths there in Himachal, they are like this. If it rains, you should be careful. Either you should sit down, wait for the rain to go away a little bit. But if it's beating down hard, then I prefer to start walking back because if it will rain too much, the path will become really slippery. And you never know what to expect, especially if you're alone. So, you don't have anybody's hand to hold or something to stabilize yourself. So, what I did, I got down on the road and then I had a cool walk in a little bit of a rain on the road along the Bays River. And I came back to Manali. And then I think even in Manali, in the evening, there are so many things to do. So if you are, you can go on these little walks during the day, and then when you are trying to come back, you see that Manali is suddenly very alive because a lot of travelers come out, and local people are making different kind of food. So I think after that, I just went to a restaurant and had some fried fish for the evening.
Trout,
Trout.
reminds me. Manali is very popular for the trout, right?
Rainbow trout and the brown trout.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very popular for the trout. I think they get it from the river there itself.
Right. So we were actually looking up a little about Manali and we came across this really interesting fact that apples, pears, plums, the rainbow trout and the brown trout were introduced by the Britishers.
Yeah, they're not native to the
So
place.
they are not at all native to the place. And even, and can you believe, like, because apple is one of the most thriving industry there, apart from like hospitality, of course. So apple also was introduced by colonization.
Right, because I think apple is a fruit from cold countries. Like if you go to Europe or if you go to, South America, anywhere where there's cold, you can find apples in people's home. But maybe we didn't have it naturally. But of course, it grows in cold, so it can grow in anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. When you're in Manali, do try out the trout, preferably the rainbow trout. I think it's a great fish if you are pescatarian or a non-vegetarian, but otherwise do try out the
apples and the pears.
Manali apples and pears. But in terms of local food, anything else, anything specific that you'd like to call out that you tried there?
In terms of local food, I also tried a small snack called Sidhu.
Okay.
I had never heard of it before. They say it's very popular, and I was there. This was in New Manali, and I had gone just walking one day. I think I was gonna go to Nagar from there, or I was just wandering around in the back street of the Manali market. I found a shop where I was actually looking at some antique stuff. It was some antique jewelry, antique, showpieces and stuff like that. And then the lady was really kind, and she told me, there is a very popular dish called Sidhu, and you must try it. And there is a stall just next to our shop, so go there and have it. So I went to a shop next door, the next door shop. It's also run by a lady, and it's called Fauji Tea Stall. Fauji means soldier.
Right.
Fauji Tea Stall. So I went there and I had this dish, and it was just like it's a bread that is made. And it's stuffed with the peanuts, walnuts, and couscous. And then they cut it off, sort of serve it in chunks with the very spicy green chutney and a red chutney. And it was really nice. I think it would be very hard to make yourself. Yeah. You can try it there, only in Manali, and it's very delicious.
So it sounds actually pretty interesting, because even when we were reading your blog and then we scroll down really fast to see the picture.
Okay.
Yeah, which also is so tempting because it looks nice. The bun looks. That's why I read up again about how it's made.
Okay.
So it is actually, baked or cooked to some extent and then steamed in the end. It seems. Yeah. So I think that would give a different flavor altogether, and especially with the spicy chutney in a cold weather, nothing beats it.
Perhaps goes well with tea.
Yeah.
Everything goes well with tea. Yeah, they were just people chilling outside the shop. You see these old style shops in villages where people are just sitting and they have all the time in their life, and someone comes up. There was a guy selling blankets, and these old men started pulling his leg. They wanted all the blankets in 100 rupees or something, and then I'm eating this Sidhu. The only person, only tourist there, and just on my own, and they were all wondering, what is this girl doing here? So I very awkwardly took this picture of the dish, because I started eating and I realized later on that maybe I should click a picture.
Yeah, good you did.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and great that you got to try out some local dishes there as well, apart from the highly I guess now that it's so commercialized, North Indian food is pretty easily available, and even South Indian for that matter is easily available in the New Market or the New Manali region, right? So it's great that you got to try out some of the local dishes there. Now moving on quickly from here, right? After the stay, right, after the first day when you checked out some of the surrounding villages and everything, what was on your mind for the rest of your trip? What were you looking to explore?
There was nothing particular on my mind. I want to see what all I can explore. Actually, I had gone on one or two simple walks already, and I had found these villages appear out of nowhere. And then I was walking in a street, and I went to, there's a Manali park in Old Manali. That is, I think it's a small place, and people come through there with families, and they have a little boating exercise or something. They have shops there. I think most of the Indian families go there. And I went there inside, and I had some chaat, and there this lady at the counter told me that you should go to Nagar, because Nagar is a beautiful village. There is nothing like it in Himachal Pradesh, she said. So the next day I thought I'll go to Nagar. So again I went to the bus stand. I took a bus to Nagar. It was a very thrilling journey. It was just 20 kilometers away, but it felt forever. The bus, of course, it's I think a lot of locals travel with the HRTC buses in Himachal Pradesh, so you always feel that they are getting on more and more people, and they also get down quickly, in 5-10 minutes they will arrive at their village and they will get down. So I'm on this bus and we are doing this journey. I think in half an hour or 45 minutes I arrived in Nagar, and that was my one of my other days in Manali. I had never heard of Nagar before. Maybe because I didn't do enough research about Manali, but I had never heard of people talk about Nagar, so I didn't know how it would be. Now, when I arrived at Nagar, there is this steep path from the highway. The bus drops me at the highway, and there's the path going up. I take that path, and then I quickly look at the internet to see what all I can see here, because even if I need directions, I need to ask local people, point me towards this direction. I didn't want to ask them, send me somewhere. So I quickly scroll and I see that there's a Gauri Shankar temple in Nagar, which is very popular.
Okay.
So I take up this path and I ask some locals. I ask them, please tell me the directions to the temple, and they tell me which one. So I feel, okay, there are many temples here. And I say Gauri Shankar temple, and then they point me towards Gauri Shankar temple. And when I arrive at the temple, it's a beautiful temple. I'm sure you guys must have seen the pictures. And people also can check out. It's Gauri Shankar temple, Nagar. It's said that it was built in the 12th century, and nobody knows who built the temple. And it has a very beautiful structure where you have, stones over stones, and they create sort of like a tower, which is called a shikhara.
Right.
And it's a tall temple. It's a Shiva temple, Gauri Shankar, and then they have a tiny courtyard, and it's again one of those really timeless places. You don't see such temples anymore in cities or anywhere. Even if you see them, they're flooded with people. But there was just this beautiful temple sitting on its own. There was nobody there. There was this tiny girl who was playing in the courtyard. Again, there's someone who came there and they told me, okay, if you want to see Nagar in a day, you should continue your journey, because we have so many places, so many more temples. So I go up.
I'm sure, and just to call out, right, like you mentioned as well, really beautiful, intricate carvings, and typical. They call these Nagara style architecture, I think, as compared to the Dravidian or South Indian style architecture, right? This is more of the North Indian style architecture. All of it is, or most of it is, stone structure and one long shikhara. So
Right.
it's very peculiar to this part, the northern Indian part, this kind of architecture. And and for a change, you said you didn't find like a lot of people around as well, so some solitude as well, getting to enjoy some calm time with yourself. So that's a good thing. And well, by the look of things, it looks like there's a lot of temples in the vicinity, right? That's
Yes.
probably something people can check out too, if they have enough time on hand.
I think if anybody goes to Nagar, they should go for a day. You can also go and stay in Nagar. So if you if you have, let's say, 4 days, you can stay for 2 days in Old Manali and 2 days in Nagar. They have many hotels and small guest houses coming up there, because Nagar is even more empty and peaceful than Old Manali. And then you can spend easily 1 or 2 days just exploring the temples there and the Nagar castle.
Yep, the Nagar Castle. How can we not mention the Nagar Castle, right? Yeah, go on.
I think built quite a while ago, over 500 years. Now it has become a guest house as well. So you can go and stay in Nagar Castle, you can book it. It overlooks the Bays River. A very beautiful view. They have a restaurant there. As I don't know, but how many people would know this, but Nagar Castle was like the palace of the Kullu kings.
Yep, that's true. Nagar used to be the capital of
Kullu.
the Kullu kings before
Yeah.
it became Kullu, I think, right?
Yeah, before it became Kullu, it was Nagar, and it stayed as the capital, and so many generations would have, so many generations of kings would have stayed there. I think about at least a few hundred years. So it's a very historical place to check out. The castle had the Kathkuni architecture, where you have stones over stones. They're fit together to form the structure, and in between you have some smaller stones and some mud and things like that. And that's the entire structure.
Yeah, and more of the top structure is more of wooden aspect to it, right? It's more wooden,
Right,
the
like
balconies and stuff like that. So it's a very peculiar kind of architecture, and it's I think native to a lot of these Himachali and Himalayan towns, right? The
Right,
Kathakali architecture.
it's native to Himachal. You won't see this anywhere else because of the sort of weather and the temperature
Exactly.
and the local things that are available. So there's a lot of wood in Himachal. The trees keep falling, and I think I'm also like for sure the villagers also go up in the forest and bring back some trees. So they use that wood, and there's a lot
Yep.
of stone as well because there is river banks, and those rivers have created a stone over time. So I think because of the availability, these structures started coming into existence, and then people perfected them. Now these like this castle has been standing for like more than 500 years, and it is just as good as then.
Absolutely, absolutely, and such a beautiful structure as well, right? And like you mentioned, it was Raja Siddh Singh, I believe,
Yeah,
one of the Kullu kings who constructed this, and a beautiful structure. Now, I think in the recent past, perhaps about 50, 60 years ago or so, it's been taken over by the government, and they run
right,
a heritage hotel there. So you
right.
can, if you're going to stay in Nagar, I think it's a very good option to consider as well. And if you're still wondering, a little bit of trivia is that the movie Jab We Met, right? Shahid Kapoor and Kareena Kapoor, yeah.
Yeah.
The popular song Ye Ishq Hai. I don't know how many of you remember, but it was shot in parts of it was shot in the Nagar Castle. So look it up; you'll be
Oh,
pleasantly surprised. So that's a little bit of trivia about Nagar Castle as well. It's not just the views, and yeah, like that song goes as well, right? Ye ishq hai, baithe bitaye jannat dikhaye. I don't know if it's the ishq, but yeah, the views are just gorgeous from the Nagar Castle.
and the vegetarian cutlets too.
Oh, really?
They have a restaurant there, and I wanted to eat there with the view. You know, like this
Uh-huh.
typical thought that comes in your mind. Okay, I'm gonna sit in this balcony and I'm gonna enjoy a meal now. But it was
Uh-huh.
full of people, so I got to eat inside. But I ordered these vegetarian cutlets, and I thought like I'll get a small plate, and then I get these two huge cutlets. But they were really nice. I think they cook their food still very old style, and they prepare it with time because I could see that. So maybe that's also one thing people should try.
Okay, so the views of the Himalayas and the views of the river, they have competition in cutlets.
They
None other
have
than
competition
cutlets.
in cutlets, yes.
Wonderful. So it looks like you can literally spend some time around going around the Naga
Nagar, yeah.
Castle, and I believe it has a museum also. Is that right,
They
Priyanka?
have a museum also. There was this Russian artist, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Nicholas Roerich, yeah.
Yeah, and he was there for a long time making paintings and stuff, and now it has been turned into a museum, and you can go there during the day. There's art gallery as well. I think there's this house as well that has been turned into a museum, but I didn't go there because I didn't have enough time. I was slow and steady, and I went to 3-4 places because there are not only like Gauri Shankar temple and the Krishna temple. There is one more temple on my way where I stopped and saw it. Then there was one more temple that was being constructed. There's Nagar Castle. Then there are other temples as well. I think it's just such a tiny village, but people are constructing more temples.
Yeah, I think probably one day is quite a short time to explore Nagar, right? There's quite a bit of things to do. Like you mentioned, there's a handful of temples and a couple of others that I also looked up. I believe on your blog were Jagati Path temple, right? That was
Jagati Path is inside the castle. It stays closed.
interesting.
It's only open for a little bit of a time, and I was just happened to be reading about it like a day before, and I read that because I've not seen the temple from inside, and I read that instead of an idol of a god, they have a stone there.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they pray to the stone because there was a story, I think, that the stone was brought upon from somewhere, and soon it became a symbol of worship, and that's what's kept in the Jagati Path. Yeah, but I don't know when it opens up. It's almost always closed.
Yeah, but that's definitely an option, and Vishnu temple as well, I believe. And like Priyanka mentioned, there's that Nicholas Rorick's house turned museum. It's a small sort of a museum, and if you want a little bit of a background about Nicholas Rorick, do go and check out our episode we did called as the Paintings of the Himalayas. It actually covers over 500 paintings that Nicholas Rorick did while he did, I think, over an 8-year journey across the Himalayas, and like spanning different countries all across, right from India to Tibet, parts of China, Pakistan, like a bunch of places. So do check that episode out. It's one of our
Nice.
previous episodes. But yeah, bottom line is that Nagar has a lot of places. So perhaps a 2-day trip or a 2-day itinerary there would give you enough time to check out all these places without being in a rush. Outside of Nagar, now, assuming that you headed back to Manali from here, right? What else was on your mind? Like, was there other places that you checked out as well?
I definitely heard about Vashisht because I was traveling in Parvati Valley, and Parvati Valley also has hot springs. And people also told me about the Vashisht village, that if you're going to Manali, do go to Vashisht, and there are the hot springs there as well. So that's also a place that one could check out. It needs like an entire day because you can either walk through Vashisht, you can take a small rickshaw, and you arrive there. There are it says, the story goes like this, that Rishi Vashisht, on whose name the village is called, he used to pray in the village at some place, and that place now became the temple. And it's also a very old temple, like at least 4,000 years old maybe. So you can go to the temple, and then you can go to the hot water baths. As goes without saying, in Himachal, the hot water baths, hot springs are always like divided. There's one section for men and there's one section for women. The local people always kept warning us that just don't stay for too long because your body temperature would dip down. So just come out for 10-15 minutes. Of course, we didn't follow that rule always, but if you want to stay for longer, then go in the water, then come out, get cold a little bit, and go again. That's the trick.
But yeah, it's a very, very popular place, right? Both for the hot water springs as
Very
well as the
popular.
temple. Like you mentioned, it's historically and even in terms of the mythology also, it's a very, very popular village, and it's believed to have been the place where the sage Vashisht, Rishi Vashisht, kind of meditated, right? Overall, I think this is also not too far away from Old Manali, right? Pretty close.
No, it's about 45 minutes. I think I took about some 45 minutes. But if you want to just, go slow, see things around on the way, then it would take about an hour. And then you go there, you can be at the temple, you can go in the hot waters, and then there's also another waterfall nearby Vashisht, which is called the Jogini Falls.
Interesting.
And you can go to the Jogini Falls as well. It was a bit rainy when I was there, so I think I didn't complete the walk to the Jogini Falls. I went like halfway and I came back, but it's doable. It's a lot of people told me that they've been there and it's very nice. So again, if you want to do all the 2-3 things, then I would suggest that people leave Manali like a bit early, and then go to Vashisht and have lunch there, relax there, see the things around, get into the hot water, walk to the waterfall, and come back. And of course, Vashisht is also very popular, at least with backpackers. And you can go and stay there as well. Old Manali, you have a lot of backpackers, but in Vashisht, the numbers are still less. So it's more laid back, more empty. So some people who don't like Old Manali, they go there and stay there.
Okay.
Cool, that's brilliant. And while we are touching the Vashisht temple, I think it's also a good time to call out the Hidimba Devi temple, I think, right? That's also a very popular temple. This is within Manali, I believe. And
This is within Manali.
right, and this is also very popular in terms of historical and religious significance as well. It's believed that Hidimba, I think she's Rakshasi, or I don't know.
Rakshasi,
Yeah,
yes.
I think I'm probably butchering the Hindi word, but yeah, demoness, I guess. And
Demoness, Rakshasi.
Bhima, right? One of the Pandavas, while they were on exile, Manali is one of the places they've believed to have visited, and he kind of overpowered and defeated Hidimb, which is Hidimba's brother, and later on she married, because I think she had already vowed that she would marry the one who would be able to defeat her brother. And then that's how I think their child or their offspring is what Ghatotkach is, right? So that's a little bit of a religious significance of the place. Hidimba Devi temple is also very, very popular among both locals as well as the tourists who visit Manali. So
Right.
overall, in terms of temples, I think Manali, I know we've been kind of pitching it as a honeymoon destination, but even in terms of the religious circuit, there's a lot of temples, a lot of important temples that one can visit if you want to make this into a religious trail of sorts. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about your trip now. You have gone around a bunch of villages in and around Manali, explored Old Manali as well. Was there more to your trip?
I explored Old Manali. I went around villages. I also went to New Manali, tried out some of the food in the back lanes. Then I had also gone to other places. Like I went to Spiti from Manali.
Okay.
So that preparation also took me like about half a day because before that I was in Parvati and I got to know that the roads to Spiti have opened up. So to Spiti Valley, which is like one of the higher valleys of Himachal Pradesh, and it is at a height of at least like 4,200 meters, even at its minimum best.
Yep, Spiti can be a itinerary in itself, right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place, and bunch of places that you could check out. And if Spiti inspires you, I would say definitely check out. You've blogged about it, Priyanka?
I've blogged about it.
Exactly. So definitely check out Priyanka's blog, and if you still have some time, you can also go check out one of our earlier episodes, which is also this is almost becoming like a promotion of our own episodes. But yeah, we did an episode on Spiti also back in the day, so do check that out.
And even Manali by itself has so much to offer. Like it's got the entire offbeat part plus the touristy part as well. Pretty much it's like a jam-packed days you can have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ideal, I think, for 5-6 days. You can see Manali pretty well, even by going around and just relaxing in Manali itself.
Absolutely, and for the adventure seekers, like we mentioned, the Bias or the Beas River is also rafting on this river is also a very, very popular adventure kind of sport in the region, adventure activity in the region.
Yeah,
and
I've heard there's even zorbing,
paragliding, right? Even paragliding is quite the adventure activity now, and I believe I don't know if you remember, Faiza, there was this video which went viral of this guy. I think it was a paragliding or it was paragliding. Yeah, right.
पाइलैंड करा दे बस भाई मेरे पाइलैंड करा दे बस भाई मेरे
Hi, bus to land karwa de. That one.
Yes, where
this was in Manali, I believe.
So Manali. Oh, okay, yeah.
So, paragliding is also a very popular activity. If you want to make a viral video, go to Manali and perhaps indulge in paragliding.
I don't know how many people go for paragliding from Manali actually.
It's more, I mean, more so Solang and the places nearby, I guess. But this particular one that went viral was apparently in Manali. So I thought maybe we'll make a quick mention about it. But that's one funny video. We'll probably link that video in the show notes as well if someone is interested. A very, very funny video. And I have this little habit of always trying to link up what Bollywood movies have been shot in the region. So we mentioned Jab We Met earlier on. So other movies also. Roja was a lot of, they showed it as Kashmir, but it was actually shot in Manali. And Fana, Bang Bang, right? Hrithik Roshan, Katrina Kaif was a famous scene shot on the Manali Bridge, right? And they apparently renamed that to Bang Bang Point now. So a little bit of Bollywood connection too, given how beautiful it is, right? It's only natural that a lot of people, a lot of Bollywood producers decide to shoot here, and perhaps works out cheap for them also, and very, very tourist friendly place too. So that way it's a safe and secure spot to shoot here too. So a lot of that goes on, and overall I think it's just a great place. And thank you for taking us on this wonderful journey. Before we kind of wind this up, why don't you also call out, Priyanka, how people can follow your work and your writing?
My blog is called onmycanvas.com. People can also connect with me. I'm very active on Twitter and Instagram. On Instagram, I go by Priyanka _onmycanvas.
Thank you so much, and we look forward to following your work and your travels in the future.
Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. Thank you.
That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Audioboom, Savan, Pocket Casts, Castbox, Stitcher, or any other podcasting app available on iOS or Android. Please do leave us a review on iTunes. It goes a long way in the show's discoverability. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or, if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com or visit our website at www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of each episode. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.